3, 2, 1.
Hello, Johto League. Welcome to this special emergency COVID-19 episode of the Johto League Fantasy Basketball Podcast. It's me, Unu Tran. I'm going to be the host. Here to join me is Johnny Lamb.
Hey, Unu, how's it going?
Good, good. You want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes, I am this season's commissioner of Johto League for the 2019-2020 season. Two-time champion, been in the league since, I think, 2011, maybe? I think. Maybe the second season of the league, I believe.
Awesome.
Glad to be here.
Let me ask you right off the bat, how has COVID-19 affected you, your work, and your lifestyle?
Man, I am a pretty social guy, so I got to say I'm usually an extrovert, self-proclaimed extrovert. I like going out, doing happy hour 3-4 times a week, and meeting friends. I run at the park a lot, and I still do that, but now it's become more of like a video game of kind of maintaining a safe distance just in case someone's like, while they're running, they like cough or sneeze. So I still do distance. For work anyway, my job is 100% commutable. Is that the word? Where you can work from home?
Work from home. Oh my God.
Yeah, so we have had more, there seems to be a lot more meetings at work, so no real impact on my job per se, because I can still do my work, but it's a little bit different because more conference calls. We haven't really done video conferencing yet. That might become a thing at some point. And then just no happy hours anymore. I've been doing virtual happy hours kind of like this.
So does everyone bring their own? Is it like BYOB, or how does that work?
Yeah. So it really helps for the people, especially my friends that have kids. They are going crazy at home, just trapped. Like typically they say that when they go to work, they get away from their wife and kid or husband and kids. So having that is kind of like a sanity to help them regain some sanity.
Gotcha. All right, so let me just first off get your opinions on this whole COVID-19. How serious do you think it is? And yeah, let's just start there.
Well, I think this is kind of like the event for our generation. How other generations had stuff like the Depression or World War I, World War II. I would even say 9/11 was kind of like that for us. Not to compare the two, they're not really the same, but the way that they impact us is huge. So obviously we have to change our way of living. Everyone's kind of panicking, buying up supplies, not going outside. The impact on the economy is going to be tremendous for at least for a few months. So I would say this is one of the huge events that we're going to remember, and then we'll talk about to our kids 30, 40 years from now even.
Yeah, I think this is the big one. I'll be honest. When it first started happening, I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. But as it spread from China to like Italy, seeing how they handled it, and different countries, I don't know, man. I'm hoping for the best, but we'll see how this plays out, especially in America. One thing that it has affected a lot is the NBA. So with that, what do you think happens with the NBA amidst this whole coronavirus?
I think they're doing what everyone else is. They're doing the prudent thing, which is postponing games until further notice. There have been a lot of calls for them to just end the season at this point because it seems like every week as we go on, a new handful of players test positive for it. And if you start tracing back to who was on the court with them, who they interacted with, teammates, staff, coaches, front office people, anyone that could have come in contact with them may also have it too. They just haven't been tested. And that's one of the things about this pandemic is it's hard to tell how serious it is because we haven't had enough testing to determine that. And so I think the prudent thing to do for most corporations and then sports leagues is to go ahead and postpone whatever activity they had just in case, And so I think with the NBA postponing it at least for a few months to see how this thing shakes out, see if this whole social distancing and development of potential treatments will get us to kind of flatten the curve a little bit before any mass gatherings happen again?
Yeah, so I guess like I have a brother who lives in Vietnam, and his reaction of the situation is much different than mine, right? He's like on the front lines. You see how everything affects him. Everyone's wearing masks to try to come together as a community to make sure that it doesn't spread. And then I'll see, I don't know, like different articles in the States of how like in Florida, people are just all going to the beaches, or like in Georgia, they're acting like it's nothing, it's getting blown out of proportion. And so I think any kinds of states that allow it to grow, unfortunately, is going to keep it uncontained. And so I don't know, I definitely think a little bit differently, or a lot differently now that like New York is shut down, California is shut down, these big hubs to where yeah, it is that thing that's going to be looked back upon and see like how did we react to this? Did we respond to this in the best way? Unfortunately, I don't know how it's going to go. Right? Like if you're looking at Italy right now, I would say they're not handling it very well. They were in the beginning thinking it wasn't that big of a deal, and when Rudy Gobert came out and tested positive, you're gonna look back. He's gonna look back and say like that was not the best way to handle that. And then from that moment, you could link all 30 NBA teams together at some point within the past 5 days. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how this plays out. One thing I thought about when talking with friends about flattening the curve, right? Like the whole idea of flattening the curve is to make sure that the hospitals don't get overrun, so that we can still treat the people who need that hospital care. But by flattening the curve, we're increasing that time, right? We're just trying to buy time, which is a good thing. But then you have industries like the food and beverage who are hurting, and if this is the way of life for them for the next 3 to 6 months, like I don't know. I don't know how this is going to play out. So we'll see.
It's going to be a disaster for the food and beverage industry. I've got some friends that are in that industry, and I've also just today, right before I came back here to do this podcast with you, I drove out to Chinatown because I ordered some food to pick up. And I would say I go to Chinatown pretty frequently in Houston, by the way, for those that are watching that don't know. On a Saturday afternoon around lunchtime, Chinatown is bustling. And when I went over there, I would say traffic is about anywhere from 1/5 to 1/4 of the normal. And it's really weird. It's bizarre just driving by all these, looking through the window and just seeing the chairs and tables just stacked because they're not,
Dang.
nobody is coming in to to sit down, right? So, and it's empty. Like the parking lots are really empty.
That is, I'm sure.
What's that?
Less accidents in that area, hopefully.
That's right. Yeah, it's funny. Our mutual friend Chuck actually he came, I think, during the holidays to go meet the rest of our friends from college for lunch, and he got in an accident there. Somebody hit him. We were just talking about how terrible it is.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so let's discuss what is going to happen to this year's championship, right?
Yeah, great question.
So we're going to look back, right? And historically, there's always been a champion every year. Now, there's a couple of scenarios that the NBA season might play out. Obviously, these are just theories. Adam Silver is obviously on top of it. I think he's doing a really good job of doing the right things at the right times, right? Like immediately when Rudy Gobert tested positive, he just immediately shut it down. And then how he handled the whole China situation, I thought was very well too. So, does the NBA resume, let's say later this summer? How does the scheduling work? Because, obviously if there's less time to play out the NBA season, do they just, cancel most of the regular season games? Do they jump into playoffs? What do you think? So one, I guess, what do you think happens to the NBA? And two, what should happen for this year's championship?
Fantasy championship, right?
Fantasy championship, yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I guess there's two scenarios. I think the more likely scenario is Actually, I'm obviously not a COVID-19 or infectious disease epidemiologist or anything. But the feeling is if we go by the way of how China and Korea have been going, they figure this thing will probably peak in a couple months or so. And for us, I think because we're a bigger, one, we're not like China. We're not like an authoritarian government where they can force us to do things. They can just kind of say, please do these, please stay at home, please don't gather, all these things. But in China, it basically took 2 months for them to get to the point where just yesterday, I think it was yesterday or Thursday, either Thursday or Friday of this week, they finally had 0 new reported cases in China. So they're kind of getting to the point where they think they have it contained, but it's because they took such extreme measures that only a government like China could do. So let's say, I don't know, conservatively 3 months for us. If people continue social distancing in the U.S. and they start testing these treatment plans, the vaccine's not going to happen for another 12 to 18 months because it has to go through all the trials. But if they start a treatment plan at least to get the people that are sick in the hospitals better. That would put us somewhere around June or July for the season to continue. And so we did, I was just doing the math before this. I was pulling up the standings. So far, the Bucks, I just looked at them because they're at the very top. They have a total of 53 wins plus 12 losses is 65 games played. That means 17 games remaining for the regular season, unplayed in this season. And so if they were to play out 17 games, that's effectively 4 weeks or so, 4 or 5 weeks of regular season action that we're missing. I think what's going to matter here is the TV dollars. They don't want to overlap with NFL because the NFL season spins up, when is it, September, I think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and I don't think that they compete that much because I know there's some overlap in the fall anyway, but I figure if they start in July, have 2 months of playoffs, and then get the finals right around September, October, that's still possible. So this is best case scenario, right? I think in a few months, the scare is gone, we come back. Do you think 2-3 months is reasonable?
So it's funny you mentioned you're looking at China and South Korea, right? And obviously, like you said, China's and so we're not going to handle the same situation, right? Like we can't just weld people's doors shut and quarantine them that way. I think best case scenario is we handle it like South Korea, where everyone gets on board, understands the impact that this is having on the rest of the world, and takes seat. What I'm afraid of is that we're going to handle it like Italy. And so
no offense, Italy, but
yeah, no offense to Italy, but you handled it like Rudy Gobert, and now you're hurting.
Hey,
right?
check it out, man. I'm doing my Rudy Gobert impression.
And so, best case, if it resumes, everything is going to play out. I think something that is interesting for this year is, and you don't Malcolm Brogdon because you're like, yeah, he's done for the rest of the season. But this weird situation popped up where a lot of those injured players are going to come back.
Oh, man.
That's going to be interesting for playoffs, right? But I would say everyone had the same information. I think Michael Liu made out like a bandit and just snatched up a bunch of those injured players.
Somebody picked up KD. Who was that?
Huh?
Somebody picked up KD.
That was Tim.
Tim? Oh, okay.
That was a Tim move. So you can't blame Tim. Obviously, I don't know. But anyways, yeah, if this resumes, best case scenario is that it just resumes and gets pushed back later in the summer, in which, we could just play out the playoffs like normal.
Right, because we were actually in the middle of week 20, our final week of the regular season, and then we would have had 3 weeks, round 1, round 2, the semis, round 1 playoffs, semifinals, and then the championship matchup. We would have done 3 weeks, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So this is the optimistic scenario, I think. So that's my best case scenario is the season continues in 2-3 months and we just play it out. A more likely scenario is probably, actually, this is the toss-up. So actually, I personally think the likely scenario is that the season's gonna, we're done.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm thinking that way too.
So maybe you cover that one. So here's the middle ground scenario that I think could happen is that they shorten the season. So instead,
Okay.
they give the NBA players like let's say 2 weeks of maybe instead of doing the full 82, they do like 70 games or 72 games. They cut it by 10 games. Finish the regular season at about 2.5 weeks. So that way the players aren't going into the playoffs completely cold. There's a difference between being in mid-season form as you're about to get into the most intense games of the season, and going in cold turkey. Because now think about it, they're going to be off for 2-3 months. It'll be almost like they had an entire off season, and then you expect them to come straight back into playoff intensity basketball. I mean, one, I think that increases the risk of injuries, and two, it doesn't. Yeah, I just don't. People are going to have to warm back up again to get back in shape. You saw Jokic this year, right? The beginning, first few months, he was looking like a bust, and then now the second half of the season, he got into shape because he's running around all day. His what is it? Is he drinking Mountain Dew or Dr Pepper? What was he drinking?
I don't know what he's drinking.
He's drinking those 2-liter bottles of some kind of soda. I can't remember which one he should advertise for them. So, anyways, I think the middle ground is that they shorten the season, and in that case, we're also screwed for fantasy because we won't have enough games to play for a championship.
Yeah. So then, in that scenario, how does that one play out?
You probably would be on the flip side of the coin of this, but I would think that we do not crown a champion in 2020.
Wow. Wow. I mean, you're the commissioner. I completely, whatever you decide is the way that I'm going to live with. Right? And then obviously, worst case scenario, yeah.
But what are your thoughts about that? Like, what do you think? I mean, obviously, your perspective might be a little bit different because you're at the top of the standings, right?
Nah, so like this is turned in kind of like a existential NBA fantasy basketball season for me, right? 'Cause everything has gone right. My draft went amazing. All my players stayed healthy, and I was just mowing down the competition.
Yeah, I
Right?
agree.
Not that
Killing
I
it.
didn't make mistakes. I definitely made mistakes, but I made more good decisions than I did bad decisions. And so here I am. Got my trading, got my Kevin Love trading. And so if this is the reason that I don't get a championship, I've already accepted like, yo, maybe fantasy basketball isn't for me, right? Like, I don't think I'm ever gonna win a championship.
No, man, you've competed a few times before.
If this is the season where I'm like, this is it. I've learned from all my mistakes from previous years and I've put it together. And COVID-19 come. I take that as a message from the universe of being Unu. It's not meant to be in your future. Move on to other
Move on.
things.
Yeah. Get into sports betting or something,
Yeah. But let's say we have all the information. So let's say the rest of the season gets canceled because as news comes out, more and more players are showing that they've been infected. All right. So how do you play out the season if you know that players are carriers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that scenario, then I don't think that I should get a full championship, right? Or anyone, right? But because there has to be crowned a championship for every year, I feel like I should get one with a big asterisk, right? So what does that asterisk mean? It means I don't get a full championship, right? I might even get a lesser plaque thing on the belts. I don't care, right? But what does that mean that I get? That means for every championship picture where everyone stands in and holds up their ones, I get to jump in on that, right? I get to take but if anyone ever asks, hey, Unu, does your championship count as a full one? No, it does not. It should count as much as Ronnie's 8th-member league win. Right? That's how much it should count. So it shouldn't count more than that. So if Ronnie ever asks, like, yo, I got, 1.5 or 2, and his half one counts more than mine.
Well, here's I have a question. I have a question for you. If in that line of thinking, right? If they were to end the season today, would the NBA crown a champion?
They would not. They would not.
Because to me, a championship, winning a championship to me is like it's like an absolute yes or no. Did you win the championship? Did you win the finals? And
Yeah.
in this case, you are leading the pack. You're kind of like the Bucks right now. Let me check who the highest in the Western Conference is. Yeah, Bucks are leading. They're 53 and 12. Lakers are 49 and 14 atop the West. And if the season were to be cut short today, no playoffs have been played, no championship has been played. So I don't think you would. I mean, it would just be an empty, like a season where there's no champion at all. And you would be. It's unfortunate, right? You're at the top of the standings. You've crushed it this year. Great moves, great draft. Everybody's held up. Everything you said is true. But in my opinion, because no championship was played, I think we would just have a vacant. I mean, it's just coronavirus season. Nobody won.
Yeah, what about my like? I'm not saying I should be champion, right? I never said that. I just said let me document this year. Let me get my little conference finals championship. Right? It ain't the main one. Let me get the conference one. Right? Let me get a banner. I get a banner, but it just doesn't mean as much as a championship ring. Is that fair? I want it to be. This is the way that I want it to be valued. Right? Either equal or less than Ronnie's 8-man win one, but more than Tim's, I tied just for the championship, but I lost tiebreakers, right? Like, my season needs to count more than that one. That's all I'm asking, right? Like I said, what does it mean? Do I ever get to call myself a champion? No. But whenever you guys hold those number one fingers, I want to be able to jump into those pictures. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking.
You would hold up year one. You always have to hold an asterisk next to it, and the asterisk will say number one regular season.
Yeah, conference. It's like a Western Conference championship, right? Doesn't count. All right. So, but also, I don't think a new NBA season would start without a playoffs concluding this one. So I do think that there is going to be an eventual champion of this year. Because I think the playoffs brings in too much money for them to cancel that completely and then just start at a regular season, right? So, but I digress. That's not fantasy basketball related. But yeah, I agree. If the season were to end today, I don't know. I want to let you make that decision. You're the commissioner. This is when commissioner needs to step up. No matter what I say, I trust your decision just like I trust Adam Silver.
Great. I appreciate that, Unu. Here's an out-of-the-box thought. Tell me what you think about this. What if, for the playoffs then, we have the same 7 teams make the playoffs, first seed gets the bye, and every week, how about every round of playoffs, we do a new draft for just the people that are in the because this is assuming what you just said, right? Where we will have playoffs at some point. They may cut the regular season short and just say, all right, the top 8 teams are going in. So we'll do a redraft every week with only the people that are in the playoffs. They draft only from the pool of players that are in the playoffs, and then you can still play fantasy using those playoff pool of players.
I like that idea.
It would still.
How do you determine the draft order, though?
Yeah, it would have to be. That would have to be randomized every week. Or, God, I wish we did auction. I really wish we done auction this year. I think we were like one or two votes away.
Yeah, your vote. Actually, I remember you had the deciding vote.
That's right.
You chose to keep it the same.
I had the deciding vote, but there were 2 people in the league that were adamantly against it because I kind of got a feel for the pulse of the league, and there were 2 people that are strongly against it, and they're kind of like, if there are 2 people strongly against it and I don't care, then it would have failed anyway, because it wouldn't.
Think of it this way. Who cares? COVID-19, no one could have predicted, and it has totally changed fantasy basketball.
Yeah.
So you got to do. Obviously hindsight's 2020, but
Looking back now, I wish I'd voted for it because I think it would have been a lot of fun. Would have kind of energized our league a little bit to add a new wrinkle, something kind of like a
On
new.
that on
Mhm.
that topic, do you think next year is going to go auction? If there's a next year.
Yeah, I do think so because this upcoming year, I'm no longer on the fence. Like for this season, 2019, I was apathetic, but now that I've seen, because I did a fantasy football auction draft also, and I had a ton of fun, and I think it could really bring some new excitement to our fantasy league. It feels like it's kind of petered off a little bit. You've seen like the number of trades declining. The chatter about our fantasy league has kind of died down a little bit. It hasn't been as hectic or as much of a frenzy as it has been in previous years. It's kind of been like on a downward trend. So I want something like, I feel like this auction draft would revitalize the league a little bit. People have to reconsider how their strategy going into it, and not just pray for a lucky first pick or top 10
Yeah,
pick.
yeah. And then on that note, how would an auction draft have changed how this played out?
I don't think it would. The only thing it would do is it would give us an easy way to draft if we decide to do the out of the box playoff scenario.
Yeah, and that it only comes up because of this weird pandemic. All right, so I guess before I let you go, I just want to ask you one last question, and that is, how do you think this is all going to end?
What do you mean, fantasy or real life?
COVID-19 in general, and then fantasy if you feel like it has an impact.
Yeah. I think at some point the virus is gonna like mutate, and then we will end up going to the zombie apocalypse.
All right.
Yeah. What
And,
about you?
wait. On that zombie apocalypse, and I'll answer the question after you.
Okay.
In the fantasy basketball league, you have to pick a team of 4 to survive the zombie apocalypse. Okay, so you get 4 people in addition to you. So it's a group of 5 people total, but you're one of them, so you pick 4 more. Who do you pick?
Out of our league?
Out of our league.
Oh man, who's the most resourceful? Who cooks? I need somebody that is good with weapons. I think somebody that can is good at cooking. Somebody that has some like healing knowledge.
Yo, your boy's in.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like I'd have to pick you for sure. Definitely not Tim. I can't think of anything that Tim would contribute to the group.
Yo, you can cook.
I mean, Tim was supposed to be on this call. That's how reliable he is.
Dependable. I didn't say he can cook.
But man can cook. All right. Man, that's a lot of people to pick up. All right, let me think. Who else is in here? You know what?
I'll list them off. I'll list them off to give you some time. So, okay, it's me, you, Scotty, Min, Joe, Michael DDS, Olay, Oscar's in here, Ronnie, Mike Lou, Twan, Vin, and then Tim.
Jeez, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
All right, who eats the least out of this group? Let me think. Who can survive on the least amount of food? I feel like Oscar looks like a stick. I'll probably take Oscar. Oscar's
Oscar, number 1 pick is Oscar.
I feel like he's number 1 pick because just like in basketball, he's like a big fundamentals guy, and he's the board man. Board man gets paid.
I was going with the one he doesn't eat a lot.
He doesn't.
He's a hustle player, so you know he's gonna do stuff, right? He's like, I think he was in Bud Lovers Club or something. So he's nature. He knows about the nature. Can live off the land. Yeah, and then he's like a science teacher. So he's got a lot going for him. He's my number 1 pick for sure.
Okay. All right. I like him too, and maybe I feel like I'll probably need Nin. So Nin, he's got to be there just to keep everybody sane. So Nin's a funny guy, and he's always got like interesting, creative takes on whatever scenario is happening. So even if we're in like a terrible situation, I think he'll lighten the mood and make sure we don't kill each other.
For sure. Nin is a good glue guy.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. I like that. So I guess we're working through this together. So it's me, you, Oscar for sure, and then let's pick one more person to be part of our zombie apocalypse team. See, with you though, your value is like spreadsheets. I don't know how that. I don't know how that fits. I don't know how that fits in this zombie
Yeah,
apocalypse.
you're right. You're right. I don't know how I'm gonna spreadsheet us to safety. You can replace me with somebody. Who would you replace me with?
Let's see. Who do I need?
I feel
I
like
need
in
someone.
I feel like in my crew I'm missing some muscle. I might go with Vin.
I was thinking Vin, right? Plus, like the Vin Nin combo
Uh
is
huh.
like a good combo. It's a good pairing. But Vin's a dad now, and so his like that's a package deal, right? Like you can't just draft Vin and be like, you gotta leave your
Oh
kid.
man, and Hang. All right, no deal. Can't have
All
that.
right, let's see. Let's see. Who we got? I'm thinking. I'm thinking Twan, because he's like
Twan. That's an interesting pick.
okay, because he's in healthcare, right? So he's got to know at least how to use his hands and like very delicate, very like precise. I don't know how that fits with the zombie apocalypse, but I feel like it's a skill to have. And I would pick uh, DDS Michael Nguyen,
There you
but
go.
he's got a wife and kid. He's got a wife and kid. That's not. I'm not down with the package deals
He's got
in
two
the
now.
zombie apocalypse. He does,
Yeah, he's actually got
man.
two. I went to her 1 month.
Let's be honest. In a zombie apocalypse, kids are dead weight. They're eating your food.
Well, not
They're
not
not
only
contributing.
not only are they dead weight, they're actually a net negative because they also make a lot of noise unexpectedly, and you know how zombies are drawn to noise.
Yeah, yo. So that means DPDS and Vin are out. I like Uncle Roo, man. Like, he's a glue guy, but he's like low maintenance, right? Like I barely even remember he's in our group.
He just works
But
behind
he's
the
there.
scenes, right?
When he speaks, you know it's important, and you always when he makes his presence is known. His presence is known.
I like your team, man. Your team's chances of survival are pretty good, I think.
Yeah, I'm digging it. It's more about group chemistry than it is about like our ability to survive. So I don't know. Yeah. Do you have any closing thoughts,
No, I mean, what do you how do you think this whole thing's gonna end with the
dude?
virus?
I'm scared, right? Like, yeah. For some reason, I think we're gonna handle this the way that Italy handled this, which is not well. Um, and so, yeah, this whole like flattening the curve thing is important, and that's the right decision to do, or to do. But unfortunately, I think that it just extends the period that we're dealing with this. Uh, and so, you know, economically, I don't know. Our industries are changing. Um, Even within physical therapy, a lot of clinics are panicking and closing down because you're obviously trying to limit people spreading it. And for me, fortunately, right now I'm in house calls, so it doesn't really affect me too much. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just waiting till like the dust settles to really like I'm still putting in work that I was planning on doing, but right now I just I do have patient cancellations, but it hasn't like affected me super drastically. I'm just scared for the economic repercussions of staying social distancing for let's say three months even, right? Like who a lot of industries cannot survive 3 months, and I don't know how this is going to play out, right? Like does the government bail out the big businesses as they've done in the past? Do they move forward with this like universal stipend for the population? Um, and then how does that play out, right? So I don't know. It's interesting. I think we're talking about topics that need to be talked about. Unfortunately, it's due to this virus.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, like universal healthcare, that's a big one. Um, the stipend for, it was originally supposed to be for AI, but here we are now, right? So
Yeah,
um,
Yang Gang is he's getting a lot of publicity lately because this was his original universal basic income idea that's now being taken on by the administration. Kind of similar idea. I think they're doing $1,200 for single, $2,400 for with kids or families, something like that.
I heard a different exchange between like being an adult versus being a kid, but I haven't heard the details exactly, and obviously it's going to take some time before they actually roll that stuff out. So,
Mm-hmm.
if you're in a bind right now, like let's say you're in food and beverage, dude, I just don't know. I'm like scared for them. I try to support, like just like you, if I can get a to go order or something, I try to go about it that way. But I don't know, starving the economy for 3 months. Since this is the COVID-19 NBA basketball season where it's not even my championship, but it's like my chances of winning were good. I've taken this like, I've actually thought about like, okay, well, now would be a good time to jump into the market, right? So just looking at those numbers, I mean, that's a positive spin, but I just don't know how long we can try to starve out this virus, and especially if we're not all on board, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you have places like Florida or Georgia where they're like, yo, it's not, everyone's making it overblown, and those states spike, then it's inevitable before it spreads, right?
Right.
So I don't know, yeah, I hope that we handle it like South Korea, but I have a feeling where we're probably going to end up handling it like Italy. So if that's the case, I don't know. I don't know that we make it out of this in a reasonable amount of time, for one, and then two, like I don't know. I think I see this as lasting months, not a matter of weeks.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, good luck, and everybody out there that's listening, stay safe, be clean, stay at home until further notice, and we'll try to get through this. I mean, even after the cases stop, I mean, the economy is going to take a long time to recover too, just because everything's put on hold.
Know that you're staying home because you're doing that for everybody else. You're not doing that for yourself, right? Like,
Agreed.
I'm not scared that I'm gonna die from this virus and have big consequences, but I know that the large majority of American citizens are gonna not handle this very well. So remember, you're doing this for everybody else. You're not doing this for yourself. And yeah, self quarantine and stay safe.
All right, Unu. Hey, thanks for setting up this call. Really appreciate talking to you. And maybe we could do a Johto League virtual hangout later. We'll get everybody on one of these, and then grab your favorite adult beverage and just catch up.
I like that. And maybe discuss more of how we should handle this season. Instead of waiting until it ends.
And maybe that everybody can take turns roasting you for saying that you should get a title for this season.
It's a title, but it's a conference banner nonetheless. I need a banner. I would love a banner.
All right, man.
All right, Johnny. I'll talk to you later, man. Have a good one.
All right, you too. See ya. Be safe.